On this episode of Beyond the Frequency, we discuss various aspects of personal growth, emphasizing the importance of mindset, resilience, and building meaningful relationships. My guest, Ron Queeney, the esteemed owner of the Tampa Hypnosis Center, shares insights on navigating challenges and the transformative power of gratitude in everyday life. Since 2005, Ron has dedicated his life to guiding others on their journeys of self-discovery and healing as a certified hypnotherapist and a master in the integrative and transformative health life coaching. With a wealth of knowledge and experience in hypnotherapy and neurolinguistics programming, Ron combines professionalism with a deep passion for helping individuals tap into the immense potential of their subconscious. Step beyond the frequency with Ron Queeney and myself as we explore the power of gratitude, resilience, and hypnotherapy. Unlock your mind's potential and elevate your journey in this inspiring episode. All right, welcome back to another mind-bending episode of Beyond the Frequency. If you're ready to break free from the ordinary and tune into the deeper waves of the mind, you're in for a treat today. My guest is someone who knows how to unlock the secrets hidden just beneath the surface of the consciousness. Ron Queeney is the owner and mastermind behind the Tampa Hypnosis Center. Since 2005, Ron has been diving deep into the art of hypnotherapy, helping people tap into the incredible power of their minds. With a blend of hypnotherapy, NLP, and a whole lot of heart, he's been guiding folks on their journeys to self-discovery, healing, and transformation. Buckle up and get ready to ride the waves of subconscious with us. Let's dive into the depths of the mind with Ron Queeney. Ron, thank you so much for being on Beyond the Frequency. How are you?
Fantastic today, Caesar. And thank you for having me on. And then I'm creating a new landing page. I need a good writer. So I think I might.
You got me? I got you covered. No, that's so awesome. Whenever I think about hypnotism, I see what I see on TV, right? You see the wise guy with the little clock, the little pocket watch, and he's kind of swinging it in front of someone's eyes, and then they're kind of basically falling into his trance, and then it kind of goes from there. And that's all that I know, and I'm sure that's all that a lot of the listeners have seen. But with you being here today, let's just dive in and get to understand what is hypnosis in its core. And I like you to, if you can, tell us what drew you to this and what keeps you passionate about it today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first is hypnosis is a natural phenomenon. We all experience trance states every day. That's how we learn. That's how you learn to walk. That's how you learn to ride a bike. You observed others doing it, and you had to figure out how to stand up, balance, move out of ligaments and the muscles, and left foot, right foot, and then you figured out how to walk. Now you're sitting on the couch and you want to go into the kitchen. You don't think about how to walk. You taught the mind below the consciousness to do it automatically. You get up and you walk to the kitchen, and so that's how you learn everything. So hypnosis is just a study of how we create things in our mind. And everyone has a different map. Everybody learns at their own pace a little bit differently. We're all unique. There's some things that some people are genius in this area over there, yet they can't tie their shoes, right? Someone else can tie their shoes without looking down at their feet, right? So I believe everyone has a gift, a special skill set. And when people realize that, then they can begin to understand the value that they have in our society. Each one of us is designed to solve a unique kind of challenge, and I believe everybody. I have a autistic friend. He's on the edge of Asperger's, and he can't do much for himself, but yet he can listen to a YouTube 30 minutes. And he can recite that back to you word for word And not only that, you think he's having a conversation with you. So it's not like he's parodying it. So, that's his gift. Yet you can't let him out of the house all by himself, unsupervised. So it just shows you that, when I was younger, fortunate for me, other people recognized I had a special gift in engineering. And they took and gave me a laboratory. I didn't have a degree, and they gave me a laboratory in the third largest computer company in the country. None of the other engineers could do what I could do, and I didn't understand that. It was so simple for me. I thought any idiot could do it. Yet I was the only one in the company that I touched every single computer they made. So everybody has a gift, and it's important. And the other thing that's important is today's the first day of the rest of your life, and the past doesn't dictate your future.
I love that.
Figure out, the other thing is if you don't know what you want, you get what others want for you. And that's who I was back then. Someone else recognized I had a super talent. I didn't recognize it. And I made them a lot of money, and they paid me well. And they took good care of me. I loved my job. I loved showing up and got to work with a multi-million-dollar erector set every day. What's a 20-year-old kid want, guy want, give me that a multi-million-dollar erector set. I couldn't wait to get to work, and then they paid me. So everyone should think about, who are they? What are the things that come so easy to them that they don't put any value on it because they think anybody could do it. Some people can be accountants. Man, I can't do my own accountant. I pay an accountant a lot of money every year to take care of my accounting. I just can't sit still long enough to count beans. So
yeah,
I
appreciate that. Why would the average person walk through your doors?
Well, it's really interesting. Is if you're anybody that's in business, no matter what kind of training you go to, all business people, they're always paying for education outside the university. They need to know how to run the business. They know how to market. So it's unique. Everyone tells you, well, you got to find your niche, and you really got to niche down. Well, I've been doing this so long that, people come to me, and everyone, other than smoke, I get a lot of smokers every year. And that's the one category I get a lot of because, 97 out of every 100 smokers that come to me quit smoking. And just to give you an idea how effective hypnosis is, that's the only thing I really track. Everybody else, it's, if they have, a 50% change in an area of their life, they're happy, But smokers, you either are or you aren't. But the idea, everyone it has a component of stress. And, stress can be looked at differently.
Right.
With everybody. But it comes down to people always come to me and they're telling me what it is they don't want. Listen, I don't want this in my life anymore. I want to forget about that jerk that I dated for the last 4 years. So the idea, it's really about, instead of focusing on what they don't want, because the more you focus on what you don't want, the more your mind creates the blueprint.
Okay.
What you don't want gives you more of that.
Okay, so you're saying that by them focusing and with their intention that I don't want this, they're actually creating more of it, right?
Yeah, they say, I don't want this. So the mind sees the images of what they don't want. And if you're afraid of something and you say, I don't want to be afraid, well, your adrenaline explodes, right? And all the other hormones are just going wild. I just got a sweat glands just opened up just thinking about it. Not specific, just the idea of something uncomfortable. My mind referenced something that I'm not even aware of and made me sweat.
Right.
Maybe it's just being on here with you. It's
no.
into my head.
In general. So it sounds like, it kind of sounds like what you're saying is that even if you want it or don't want it, just the thought of either way that you're thinking about, just the thought of it, it's creating some kind of response in your mind, right?
In your body, the chemist within you is supporting the image. The chemist is creating a chemical cocktail to make you feel miserable when you're thinking about something miserable.
Okay, so if somebody is scared. Let's say we have a 13-year-old kid who's scared of the boogeyman in the closet, and they're like, every time I go to my room, there's this monster in there, and they're like, they're just always afraid. What would you advise that kid? How would you talk to that person regarding your skills and everything? How would you, is it convince them, or how would you get them out of that fear?
I bring it to some journeys, but I'll tell you the way I did it, because mine wasn't in the closet. Mine was under the bed. Yeah. And so, I got angry one night because it kept bothering me. My mind kept bothering me. It was purely a figment of my imagination. So I started playing a game, and that was, I'm going to catch you. I'm going to catch you. I'd throw my body over the bed, and I'd look underneath, and I'd say, oh, hiding from me, huh? You're afraid of me now.
So
And
you confronted it.
yeah, so it's the idea that I became the predator.
Nice. So you pretty much rewrote the script, the routine that was happening where it was scaring you. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna scare it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah. So I just reframed it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you the secret of this next one, but this is a great metaphor. I used to wake up with night terrors, really bad ones. I'd wake up and my heart would be beating, like really beating out of my chest. I'd be soaking wet, and it was the same theme every time. I never really had this exact same terror, but it was the same theme. It was just on a different location every time. And I had a lot of them. And they came in periods, like, a couple months in 1 year, and then it would be 3 or 4 years, and I'd have a bunch of them again. And I came up with just an idea as a hypnotist. I didn't solve this till I became a hypnotist. It was just one day I was trying to do some lucid dreaming, and I said, oh, so what I found is that I could control my dreams without waking up. That was cool. That I could be in a dream, and I already had a theme for next time this happened, that I would be able to, I already had an outcome. I already had a theme that I could plug in to my neural pathways. And so I thought I'd have to wake up to do it. No, I found that I started doing it while I was still in the dream. And so if I can do that in my dreams, here's the other thing. How many people have ever woken up with their heart pounding and soaking wet, right? In real life, the only time a guy ever experiences that is when you got in a really bad fight, not even a casual fight, but I mean, one of us was going to die fights, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
after it's over, your heart's beating. That's the only time I've ever experienced anything like that. So here's the thing, is your mind doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality, because my night terrors were as bad, if not worse, than anything I experienced while I was awake.
There's a lot of people that even today, even right now, that have night terrors, and and when they wake up, they're in sweats. They're like, again, here it is again. Like, how do they get rid of that?
Yeah, well, come go see a hypnotist.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, as a hypnotist, are you how you say reprogramming their thought process? Are you convincing them that something is when it's not, or vice versa? Like, how is it that a hypnotist is doing his or her magic?
Well, the longer you're a hypnotist, there comes this moment when everything shifts. It's not like, you gradually, learn the craft. And then all of a sudden, your mind just turns upside down and you go, wow, they tell you these things and they hint at it, but you don't know it till you experience it. And here's what happens is when you reach this point, you realize that it's not about the hypnotist, it's about the client. And you're not doing it. The client is doing it, because I can't make a client rob a bank. If I can't make them rob a bank, so what am I really doing? I'm bringing people on journeys. And that's something that does make me unique, is that I let people know right from the beginning, listen, I'm going to bring you on journeys, and you're not going to be asleep. You're going to hear every word I say. In fact, people, when they're in the trance state, sometimes, they come out and they go, I don't feel like I'm hypnotized. Well, how would you know if you're hypnotized? What would that feel like? Right?
Yeah, what does that feel like?
Yeah. Well, it's not until you go through the process and you're transformed. It's when you come out of it and you realize, I thought we were just having a conversation, but now I realize that it was a deeper, different experience than what I thought I was experiencing. So what I really do, a really good hypnotist is just a tour guide. And we know how to bring people on a tour so that they can communicate with the mind below the consciousness. And also how the mind below the consciousness is communicating with the body, with the organism. Because again, you have a thought, the chemist inside you gives a cocktail to support the thought. If you think about something amazing in your life, some amazing experience, so you start seeing the images of it, some amazing vacation you went on, and then all of a sudden the chemist you start feeling the experience, right? Well, the same thing if, your dog got sick. Yeah, okay, you said, well, the chemist instantly gives you a chemical cocktail. I just got it right there, right? It switches just like that, so fast. So going to show you the power of the chemist within you. And he's just giving you whatever you think about. He's not judging you right or wrong, good or bad. What you focused on expands.
Absolutely. I wonder, all right, let's talk about the higher mind, right? So when people are under hypnosis, are they talking now? I know they're listening to you talk, or they're having, conversation like they would, like we are right now. Is there a portion of them that's talking to where some would believe their higher self?
Well, I look at it a couple different ways. I believe that there's a God. So I believe sometimes I'm inspired by something that's way beyond myself. Like, gee, where did that come from? And it was like really supernatural stuff. And then, there's other times when, I just can't figure something out, and I'll ask somebody a question. And while I'm asking them a question, I've been thinking about something, let's say, for a whole week, and I ask somebody's opinion. And as I'm telling them my problem, I get the answer, right? So, the mind below the consciousness is, imagine, you go into your kitchen. Well, every time you go into your kitchen, your mind is recording all the images, sounds, and feelings every time you go into it, and it's comparing it to all the other times you've been in that kitchen. So let's say someone left a mess, and you go in, and your mind's going, the images aren't the way they were 3 hours ago. Someone went into the kitchen, they left a mess, and they didn't clean it up. And think about how fast your mind is comparing all of that, all those images. That's a lot of images. The conscious mind is just too slow to do that. And here's the thing: the mind below the consciousness isn't taking the credit. It's telling the conscious mind, look, someone left a mess and didn't clean it up. So the conscious mind is all the part about taking all the credit, the ego. And the mind below the consciousness isn't. You're not even aware that that's all that went on. So every room you walk into, everywhere you drive, the mind below the consciousness is recording everything. So when you think about things, you start saying, hey, I want this. So your mind starts creating a blueprint, and it's looking at all the resources from within you and all the things, afterwards you're driving around, and it's looking for other information. It's building that blueprint even when you're not thinking about it anymore. So here's something never to ask yourself. How come this shit always happens to me? Because your mind will continue to answer that till infinity, until you shut it off.
What should you ask yourself, if not that question? Because it sounds like that question that you mentioned puts you in like a victim state. Why is it happening to me? Why am I getting all the bad luck? So mostly people usually ask that question to themselves, and you're right. So what should they be asking themselves in those situations?
Yeah, I should ask themselves, okay, what is it that I really want? And if I did know what I wanted, what would that be? Now, it sounds like the same question, but it's not. It's accessing different neural pathways. And, if you don't know what you want, you get what others want for you. So you better start figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sam Walton didn't open Walmart until he was 65 years old. Yeah. So, I don't want to hear anybody bitching, oh, I'm too old now.
Yeah. You're never too old, as long as you can still think, as long as you have the drive to move forward with that idea, or in this case, what I like to call application, right? You have a thought, you amplify with application, build the steps to make that, to manifest that thought into reality. And now that I said manifest, I like to also ask you the question, how do you see manifestation? Like, how does that come about in your mind?
Well, first, it's knowing what you want, and don't bother with vain repetition. Repetition is powerful, because you have to develop the skills. If you want something, it's not just kind of like, you open up the door and it flies in the door. People that prepare for abundance, then, they attract it. If you have good character, if you, are always out there, and, if you're sitting home waiting to meet somebody, well, you better take and buy a lot of, switch from Fios to Spectrum and back to Fios and invite a lot of people over your house. But
right.
The idea that, you need to figure out what it is you want, and then you have to go out there and be prepared. And, I was offered some real amazing opportunities in my life. So I had a beautiful life, amazing life. I never did what I didn't enjoy very long, because when I was young, I had 2 opportunities that I just loved. It wasn't work to me. I got paid for having fun. And so I was fortunate. So whenever I was in a position that I didn't enjoy, or the people were just like, I don't want to be hanging around this place. I worked for a business that was so corrupt. I got a stone in my heart. If you're dishonest, it can create dis-ease within an organ. And dishonesty, I believe, hardens the heart. And because what I experienced makes me realize, that physically that emotion physically manifested in the heart. Now, when I was a people pleaser, when I was a kid, it manifested in the gut. I had a lot of IBS and a lot of gut issues because I was a people pleaser. So a lot of people experience gut issues, and it's because they have crazy emotions going on in their life, things that they suppress and don't even think of. That's what alcoholism is. You drink alcohol because you feel crappy about yourself. Oh, I'm not who I thought I would have been. I've got to change the world, and here it is. I'm working, stocking shelves or something like that, and I don't enjoy it. Nothing wrong with stocking shelves. If that's what you love to do and you're really efficient at it, and you can stock the shelves twice as fast as anybody else, well, then you ought to be making more money than other people. You need to know that, listen, nobody stocks shelves as fast as me. In fact, no one can even do half as fast as me. You look at those guys who can fold those pizza boxes, right? I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. Well, that he deserves to get a little bit more money than someone that's just sitting there talking on the phone with their friends. So I don't know. I sort of got lost on the whole point of that.
You're fine. You're totally fine. I love it. Well, let me ask you this though. So obviously you've helped out a lot of people in your years. Is there a significant story that sticks with you? Can you share any significant story that you have?
I have one big one. Yeah, and sometimes I cry. So I hope I don't cry for this one.
The good stuff.
Yeah, I had another business. I've been studying hypnosis since I was a kid. I didn't realize I wasn't studying as hypnosis, but I was studying the principles. Then it's just a word that describes principles. But there's a guy named Jim Rohn and another guy named Zig Ziglar. And man, I listed everything Zig Ziglar had. The guy, people don't really remember him, but he was the guy, in the beginning. There was another guy, Nightingale Conant's guy there, I forget who it was, way at the beginning, did Think and Grow Rich. But after that, Zig Ziglar was the guy that was the Tony Robbins of back then. He was a Southern gentleman, a guy, genius. And I used to study his stuff all the time. So before I became a professional hypnotist, I was sitting down at the mall cafeteria where the Bucks have, next to the stadium. There used to be a mall there. And there was this gal sitting down, just sat down. I was going to eat lunch, and I walked by, and I had my lunch tray, and I said, you mind if I join you, for lunch? And she looked at me like, really nasty look. So I just, okay, move along. And she pointed. She didn't say a word. She said, go ahead, sit down. So I sat down and had lunch, talked about who knows what. And I'm in my home one day, and my neighbor introduces me to his new girlfriend. I didn't recognize her. The next day, she comes out and says, Ron, you know who I am? I said, yeah, my neighbor's new girlfriend. And she says, do you remember eating lunch in the mall cafeteria over 7 years ago? She remembered me 7 years later. She recognized me. I didn't even recognize her.
Wow.
Even after she told me, I just knew who she was because of the story. So she says, remember? I said, yeah, of course I remember eating lunch at that mall cafeteria that day. And she says, well, what you didn't know is I was eating my last meal, and I want to thank you for saving my life. That's the day I became a hypnotist. Now, I didn't actually become a practicing hypnotist at that moment, but that's the moment my identity changed from a contractor to a hypnotist. I talked to her a couple years after that. Yeah, she broke away from that. My neighbor was a jerk.
Yeah.
He was, I don't know, but they're calling people narcissists now. And I looked at the thing, what does it take to be a narcissist? And I thought about every person I knew, and every person fit that category. So I sort of look at that I think that maybe he was a narcissist at an extreme.
Sure. I think doesn't everybody kind of have a little bit of narcissistic whatever inside them?
Everybody I know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I just hang around with 100 narcissists. I don't know, but I think the odds don't really work out that way.
That's crazy. For the fact that you're touching people's lives and you continue moving forward, and then for them to recognize that and remember you, you were on her mind for such a long time that She was probably waiting for the opportunity, hopefully. But she was probably, consciously thinking, manifesting that situation, that right moment to run into you, and it happened, and she had the opportunity to say thank you. I mean, and who
She
knows,
moved
just
in
by
next
saying
door.
that.
She moved in next door.
Oh, she moved in next door. Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That is so cool. I want to ask Ron, are there any myths or things that people normally think of a hypnotist that we can debunk today? I mean, what's some of the things out there? Like, for example, I think you clarify one of them, that not everybody goes into this immediate just sleep to where they have no idea what's going on. Can hypnotists turn people into chickens, and make them, pluck around, the stage or, wherever? That's still a possibility? Is that a real thing, or is that just a smoke show?
Okay. My experience is that you can't make anyone do anything against their will. You have a belief system, and that's really who you really are. We all have this innate thing about us that there's certain things that you would just never do. Well, then that person isn't going to do that. Now, if you look at stage hypnosis, they're asking for friendlies. Anybody in the audience like to come up here? Well, first of all, it's got to be someone that wants to be an exhibitionist, because nobody else is going to come up. An introvert's not going to come up.
So they're already setting the tone of, these are the people that we want up here. They're the most receptible ones, right?
Well, they're the ones that, you give them 2 beers. They're not drunk, but they're going to make an ass out of themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, I remember once when I was a kid, I drank 1 beer, and I was, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, probably 16. And I'm out with all the guys and the gals, and we're all just sitting around drinking. And I allowed myself to feel drunk on 1 beer. And then someone said something, and I realized I wasn't drunk, but I just got into the state of mind thinking that, and I started acting drunk, and I didn't know how to act drunk.
Yeah, you've seen it around, and so that means because the intent there was to hang out with your friends, have some drinks. By drinking alcohol, you would possibly get drunk. So you were already, in your mind, you already knew what the objective was. Like, I'm going to get drunk. So even if you actually physically weren't drunk, your mind just kind of sped up that thought process, and you were like, oh man, I think I am drunk. That's interesting. I've told people, sometimes people will come up to you and they'll tell you, hey, this is who I am. And I'm like, don't do me a favor. Don't tell me who you are, because what you're telling me is who you think you are. Just be you, and let me just hang out with you, and let me determine who you are. And I also like to ask people, that have other friends, be like, hey, show me your friends, and I have a better idea of who you are as well. Because you are a product of who you associate with, right? So have you ever had any clients who came into your office and they were behaving a certain type of way, but it was basically not them, it was the people that were around them, their support systems, their friends, things like that? Have you dealt with people like that, and was it that easy to just tell them to stop hanging around those people?
It's not my job. Yeah, I'm very careful to stay neutral. I'll give an example. I was on Zoom with a woman. Oh, what a amazing woman. She was really had a wonderful heart. She was, would do anything for anyone. She was intelligent. And so she was in a room in her house, and we were right in the middle of the session. And actually, it was probably more like 3/4 of the way through. And a guy barges into the room, opens the door, and he starts yelling, "What the hell's going on here?" And I mean, it was really way more abusive than that. I'm being polite. And man, I felt so bad. Now, I'm a witness to I'm watching the whole thing. Now, it's not up to me to tell that woman that she needs to divorce that ass. Okay? It's not my place to do that. I'm not ready to take the responsibility of that, right? So after it was all over, he left, and man, I spent another half hour just bringing her through trance states to give her some self-esteem back. That he robbed her from, he stole a big part of who she was that moment. And so I spent a lot of time with her, just letting her know who she really was, and that shouldn't, not to judge yourself based on that. because she's way more than that. And she was really concerned that she didn't want to go any further. I said, no. We're going to stick around here a little bit. Let's have a conversation. But my conversation never went to the point of telling her what she had to do. It's not my job to fix people. It's my job to bring them on a journey, on a tour. I know how to bring people. A really good hypnotist is not reading scripts. A really good hypnotist is having a conversation with someone, bringing them on a journey, opening doors and windows and stuff, and getting them to see who they are and how they created all their successes and all their challenges. And when they start understanding, good example is you and I having this conversation. The audience is listening to this. And, it's like politics and religion. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, a different perception of this conversation. They would write a different summary.
That's true.
Well, if there's only one reality, and we all have our own perception of that reality, that says we're creating our own reality. So we need to take some responsibility. Not to say it's not outside sources, but the majority of who we are is the person that we created. So it comes back to that idea of what do we want? What do we really want? And stop focusing on what we don't want and start creating the life of abundance, the successes, the life, that health, that happiness. I mean, you look around, look at the trees, look at the animals. I had a buck and a doe and a fawn walk right by my window here. I stopped everything I was doing and I just enjoyed that. I just looked at them and I just admired it. And I looked at the abundance and I'm just grateful for everything. If you're not faithful with the little things, you're not going to be given more.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm grateful for everything.
Yeah, I love that. That's very interesting. I always believe that the worst feeling, the one that I don't ever want to hang on to, is regret. I mean, I believe that, you can shake off the other ones, but regret, that stays with you for a long time, don't you think?
Well, that's why I look at everything as an opportunity. Then I don't have regret. What did I learn from it? Okay, yeah, it's a matter where if everything's a learning experience, then there is no regret. Yeah, hey, I didn't have the skill set to do it right the first time. So should I regret that? No, the people that are prepared for when an opportunity shows up. Some people go, oh man, you're so lucky. No, I studied this or I studied that. You can learn, like Elon says, you can learn anything on YouTube. He said, that's where I learned rockets. I went on YouTube.
That's awesome.
He said, I went to MIT's website, he says. I went to MIT and looked up rocket science. I went on YouTube.
Simple as that. So many people have learned their trade today just by learning from other people, Yeah. I think that's what we're doing through YouTube videos, through audio books or these conversations. It's what people get out of it, Even listening to this podcast, we don't know what people are getting out of this conversation, but some are getting something while some may not, and that's always okay, And not everything is for one audience or one person and things like that. So but I want to make sure that people understand that you make choices and you accept them, good or bad, fail or win, and be grateful for the opportunity and move forward. Lesson learned. Ron, I want to ask you about reality. The what if. Do you think people still have the opportunity? Let's say they 20 years old, they had an opportunity to be an actor or actress. They missed out the opportunity, decided to do something else. Let's say it was because of family. Then 20 years later, at 40 years old, my question to you, do you think, in your opinion, do you think people can still go back and correct that lost opportunity?
Well, I look at it that as we take this journey, that we make the best decision with the information we have at the time.
Right, Ron. So I have a question for you. You've been doing this for a while, and a lot of people, that do their profession, their career for this long, for over 20 years, at some point they want to retire, but you haven't retired yet. So my question to you is, what keeps you going? Why are you still doing this?
Well, I have a gift, and I feel as though I have a responsibility to share it. There's a lot of people that are struggling out there. I struggled a good part of my life. If I hadn't worked at a couple amazing jobs amongst powerful people that treated me with respect, then I could have get stuck working for one of those many jerks that I work for, corrupt, dishonest people. So yeah, if I was in that situation, I could just leave and move on. So I'm grateful. And what am I going to do? Sit around and watch soap operas? You need to communicate with people. I was always a creator in life. Every job that I thrived in, I was always creating something. When I did engineering, I was creating something new every day that never even been created before. I mean, it was just like, wow, no one's ever done this. It's amazing that's you thrive. I thrive in that kind of environment. Other people that would be stressed. I know I thrived in it. So the idea of, I don't know, I just can't sit still. I never would have done good in a union job. Having to wait for someone to sweep up a mess before I could, work or something like that. No, I'm going to sweep up my own mess, and I'm going to do what I need to do. I can't sit and do nothing. So I don't do this, 50 and 60 hours a week anymore. And I only work with people that I really want to work with. I'm going to have fun. We're going to
Take a ride. Take the tour, as you said, right?
Yeah. So I think one of the points I was sort of getting at was when I was creating, it felt amazing. It was empowering. It gave you a purpose in life. A sense of thriving. Well, when I discovered that it was even amazing when you help someone else create something that they really want, that they really desire deep down. That's just amazing, if not more amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And for a lot of the listeners that never have talked to a hypnotist and just have their own, their own thoughts of what one is. Let's ask some questions here. When it comes to spirituality, right? Spirituality in general, are you a spiritual guy as well? Do you do like holistic things? Do you go to the drugstore like most people, or are you the herb guy? How does that work in your life?
Well, I believe that there's a place for drugs, and I believe that there's a lot of drugs we shouldn't be taking. And I had what I call a Holy Spirit experience. I didn't know what I was experiencing. I thought I was having a nervous breakdown.
Wow.
But it was really something I can't even explain with hypnosis. It was before I was a hypnotist.
Okay.
And I was just driving down the road, and that's a whole nother story in itself, but it was something that I can't deny.
Okay.
Happened. So it's interesting that I was reading the Bible one day, and it says manifestations of the Holy Spirit. And there it was. It had like 10 manifestations, and I experienced every one except for the last one.
Oh, wow.
And I'm reading that, and I'm going, wow. And I'm glad that I didn't read that first, because I would have thought it was a power of suggestion.
Right.
But I experienced every single one of them except one. And it took me, this was a whole year later that I read this. And so then I understood it. Well, they wrote about that. That was a couple thousand years ago. And I just thought, wow, how do you explain that? And so and that wasn't the only experience. I asked for something when I was in probably sixth grade. No, it was probably seventh, probably seventh grade. And I got it 15 minutes later.
No way.
What I like to say is, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Wow. So you really wanted this thing, and a few minutes later it presented itself to you.
Well, now I wanted something to happen.
Okay.
I wanted something not to happen.
Gotcha. I got you. Okay.
It not happened 15 minutes later in a way that is way beyond the lottery.
Right.
It was impossible for this to happen the way it happened.
But
right away.
Yeah. Wow. So that's just one person. That's just you. That's just you with your intention. And I believe that with thought, again, talking about manifestation, it's very important about being aware of how you're feeling in the moment, right? We know somebody's angry and they point that energy, that frequency to somebody through their words. The words aren't the hurtful part. It's the intent behind it. It's the emotion.
Yeah.
Like I could say some gibberish like, da 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 blah da, right? And you don't know what I said, but the intention behind it was the feeling of anger or confusion, and you felt that, And
absolutely.
It's very, like you said, be careful what you wish for, be careful what you say to people, be careful how you say those things to people, because it can affect them.
Yeah, most of the time now, I came to the realization that other people's emotions don't belong to me, they belong to them.
Nice.
So I
Yeah.
try to hold a space for them now. I just hold a space, and all that emotion, that energy, I no longer absorb it. It goes around me. I'm just there holding the space. And when they're done at the end, they're exhausted, and I didn't react. I didn't have to defend myself. Even if I was wrong with something, even if I instigated something, the other person's emotions don't belong to me. So I just let them vent now, and I just listen and I observe. And sometimes I smile. I never laugh at anybody. I did that once, and it wasn't a good thing.
I can imagine.
The results were not good. But sometimes I smirk a little bit. But when I do that, I'm nodding my head. I'm listening. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand. And then when they're all through, they realize how much of an ass they were. And I just ask one question. I go, well, gee, that was very interesting. So what do you think the best solution to this would be? I do it without emotion, because their emotion doesn't belong to me. So why should I absorb it? Why should I match it? Why should I elevate with it? Right? Now, I'm not saying I'm 100% on this. Once in a while, I still, it gets past my power source there.
You're human. You're human,
But it's amazing now how often I can just get back. And then I used to ask, well, what do you think the best solution is? And then they found the answer. After all of that, I allowed them to talk. I allowed them to vent. And then they realized, oh, well, gee, yeah, just let me know that you wouldn't do that again, Ron. That's what they'd say to me. Just, call me next time or whatever. Okay, great. That's fair enough. I can do that.
It sounds like a counseling session, right? I mean, have you ever had like couples come in with, marital issues or whatever in their relationship?
I do not work with couples.
Gotcha. Why not?
I worked with a couple one time.
Oh, so you tried it out. Okay.
And 2 years later, I got it could only be this person, but it wasn't, they went on Google and left me a bad review, an evil review, saying that I shared information with her husband that was supposed to be private. Well, what is she talking? I didn't even understand, because it had somebody's name. I went back and I searched all of my records, and this person didn't exist. So I finally figured it out. Well, it had to be her, because she was the only couple in that 2 years. Either that or it was a total mistake and someone totally unrelated.
Right.
But I decided not to do couples after that. It's not something that my specialty is really helping people with personal, professional, and financial growth, abundance, and just being able to learn how they can reframe their lives. It's all about self-hypnosis, self-empowerment, and with individuals, entrepreneurs and, executives, I really work really, really good with them. So couples, there's other people, they specialize in that.
Right.
It's just not my niche,
Yeah. No, you got to stay in your lane. And the fact that you tried it, that's good enough there, So it works out. I think, so Ron, as we're getting close here to wrap up this episode, I like to end the episode with asking you 3 questions, and like to hear your answer on the 3 questions, and then you just share your last words with the listeners, and then we'll go from there.
Fantastic.
So
this was a blast today. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. No, thank you. I love this. It's just conversations. And again, for a lot of people that know hypnotists just from what they see on TV, I like that people are listening to an actual, hypnotist, and just get your perspective. You're a regular guy.
Yeah.
You're a regular guy. You make mistakes. You've learned, from being a child, from being a young man. You've had a different career. So this is good. I think a lot of people are going to relate to this. And then those that don't, we're like, oh, well, that's cool. I still think hypnotists are fakes or whatever. Then, hey, that's good for you too. That's fine. So, all right. So here's my first question, Ron. If you could send a message to humanity that everyone would hear, what would it be?
Well, I always had a difficulty loving my enemies, but I learned I can have compassion for every human being on this planet. Now, it doesn't mean I have to eat dinner with them or invite them on a meal or even allow them my property or ever even have a conversation with them again. But I can have compassion. Back to that old thing, I haven't heard this a long time, but the idea of don't judge someone till you walked in their moccasins. And now I'm not making excuses for bad behavior here. okay? It just open up to having compassion for them. I'm not saying don't judge them. And anybody that says they don't judge people, they're the biggest hypocrites.
Liars.
We make judgment on everything we do.
Yeah. We
Do I
do.
buy this or do I buy that? Do I trust this person or not trust this person? Do I kiss a stranger or not kiss a stranger? Those are all judgments. So the idea that, compassion go a long way.
What is one mystery of the universe that you wish you could solve?
Wow, a mystery of the universe.
Yeah, take your time. These questions are here to make you think, but everyone always has a different answer. So take your time.
The idea that I wish, you got to be careful what you wish for, remember, because you might not get it the way you expect it. But I wish as human beings, we could understand space and time. We could travel through space and time. But here's the thing is, I believe we're given this meat suit, that we are just a spirit being. In the meat suit, we borrowed it so we could experience touch, taste, smell, pain, pleasure, okay? Once we lose this meat suit, I think we do get to travel through space and time. Now, I don't know that, but I know there's some things I do as a hypnotist that I can do some pretty cool things in my mind that I believe are real. It took me many, many years to learn how to experience these things because I feel as though I have traveled through space and time. I can't prove it. I don't have any photographs. I don't have any,
You didn't bring your phone when you were traveling?
No, because I didn't have the meat suit to carry it.
I know.
If you don't have the meat suit, you're just energy.
You're just energy, right? You're just energy. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I can only imagine that with what you've learned throughout your time as a hypnotist, and even before that, you've been able to achieve things for yourself that the average person isn't thinking about too much. Esoteric knowledge is, again, it's just niche information, interesting to some people. So talking about, UFOs and frequencies and whatnot isn't for everybody. Astral projection, traveling through space isn't for everybody. But for those that it is interesting, they either are curious about it and hope to one day achieve it. And then those that have experienced it, they're looking for a platform or other like-minded folks like us to speak about it and just tell their truth. And I personally haven't, done any astral projection myself, but I love to listen to other people's experiences and their stories. I don't know if by listening to other people's experiences, it might kind of, mess up the way that I think about it, because then now I have those same expectations. I'm aware of that. But overall, through these conversations, through talking to different people, I mean, we're talking about like talking to people that have said that they've met, Bigfoot or fairies or gnomes and things. I like talking to all those kind of people because I'm just curious. It's interesting, So if anybody ever runs into these people who like to talk about the extraordinary, the out there, things that are beyond the frequency, give them a moment. Just like you would go pick up a book, a sci-fi book or whatever you want to call it, and just take a quick peek through the pages, take a peek through their mind. These are actual people telling you something, but don't judge, just if it's not for you, thank them for their time and keep it moving. But don't judge. Let people just be themselves. And by doing that, it also allows you to be a better you as well. Ron, my last question to you is this. Beyond all the knowledge and experience you've gained, what still leaves you in awe or makes you question everything?
My perception of reality. The idea that reality isn't what I thought it was, and the responsibility we have for what we've created. If we don't know what we want, then if we're happy with what other people want for us, then that's fine. Don't bitch and complain if you're not going to take responsibility. And so I wish I had this knowledge when I was in high school. If I did, things would have been different. Would have really been different. I'll give you an idea. I tell people things that's none of their business, but if it helps them, then, great. I had somebody say, Ron, you shouldn't tell people things like that. If it sets people free, what do I care?
Yeah.
I was not a very good student most of my life as far as grades. Now, here's what's fascinating. I got C's and some D's, okay? Halfway through my junior year, I got all B's and A's, mostly B's, but A's. So my last year and a half, all B's and A's. So I went from C's and D's, an occasional B, to all B's and A's within a week.
Wow.
I went away for mid-year break, came back. I was a genius. Now, I didn't study more. I studied less. I started skipping classes. And if you're getting B's and A's and you skip classes, nobody says a thing to you.
Right.
Not back then. I don't know what things are like today, but, things were strict back then. I was a different universe. And, I had a major in high school. I had 4 years of electronics in high school. So I had real advanced classes. I had labs and everything. This was a real engineering classes. This wasn't like wood shop. This was a full-blown 4 years of electronics training. And so here it was. When I graduated high school, I still thought I was stupid. And here it was. I just didn't know how to take exams. And I was trying too hard. And when I stopped trying so hard, I got all B's and A's. Crazy when you think about that. And then here it is. I worked for the third largest computer company in the country. And they gave me my own laboratory. I didn't even have a degree. And I touched every product they made. When I left that company, I still didn't put it together that I was a genius in that area, that nobody else in the company could fill that position. They didn't give it to me because they felt sorry for me or, I was somebody's pet. In fact, they were trying to fire me so they could get rid of my boss. And they couldn't because we were really good. And so they created a laboratory and it was mine. I was the only one in it until we brought somebody else in later on to help me out. So everybody out there, everybody has genius within them. And it's so easy for them. They just don't recognize it. And see, for me, other people recognized it because I didn't. I got lucky in that area. So I don't know if that answers your question because sometimes
it does. No, it does. No, you're fine, Ron. And you're right. There's a lot of people out there that don't recognize their potential, and sometimes it's just because they're not in an environment or around people that even care to recognize it for them. There's people that have talents, for 20 years and they don't realize it until they have that one conversation with that one person in the lunchroom of this one room. And they for just 2 minutes, they say, hey, look, I know we don't know each other, but I noticed that you're really good at this. And whatever you did helped me and I appreciate you and have a nice day. And that one conversation just like lifts that person up. And they're like, wow, you know what? No one's ever told me this, but I am good at this though. So for those of you out there that don't give people their flowers while they're alive, start doing it. If you see somebody out there doing something great, if you go to a store and you see a young man or a young lady who's stocking the shelves and they seem to be doing it great, or even if they're feeling down, just instead of walking by them and reaching over them and grabbing your can of beans, stop by and say, hey, I appreciate you stocking this, and whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and you're loved, or whatever you want to say, and just keep it moving. And that person doesn't have to know you, but they will receive that message with full heart. And then that's how you leave your mark. Okay. Because there's probably that individual that's, again, stocking shelves probably hasn't been told that they're worth something and they feel stuck. And by you, just a stranger, telling them, attaboy, attagirl, they probably decide, you know what, I'm going to leave this job and go do what I really like, live in my passion, so to speak. So you don't have to be a TED talker. You don't have to be a hypnotist. You don't have to be, the most famous person on this planet. You don't have to have a podcast. You just have to have a voice, and the intention behind that voice should be positive. Say, hey, you, buddy, sir, good job. Thank you. Have a nice day. And that's it. Ron, I'm going to ask you if you have any last words for the audience before we wrap things up.
Yeah, I just like to say that I concur with about everyone you meet. When I see someone doing something and it would be menial to some people, I go, listen, I just want to thank you for being here today. Without you, I wouldn't have this today. And I see someone with a great smile. I go, wow, thank you for that amazing smile you have today. And I do that everywhere I go. It just becomes so it's natural now. It's just, it's a natural phenomenon to just shed a little bit of light, sprinkle it everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's natural. I love that you said that, Ron. It is natural. And so many people are afraid to give other people compliments because they're thinking they don't want to hear from me. They're judging the value of your words. Let that person do it. If they don't want to hear it, they're going to tell you, and that's okay. All right. But just whatever comes out of your mouth, it's even common courtesies, right? Instead of telling somebody to just move, you say, please excuse me. And it goes a long way. So yeah, I like it. Well, Ron, it was a pleasure. I hope we can do this again later on down the line. We'll catch up again. But for those of you out there that have never met a hypnotist or are curious to learn more about hypnotherapy, Ron will, if you're okay with it, I'll be collecting later on here. I'll collect your information. I'll put it down in the link of this episode, and then, have people contact you if they have questions or concerns, or maybe even anything that you may have said on this podcast. If they got something to say, Ron would be there to answer. But Ron, is there, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they could go to my email on my website. My website, TampaHypnosisCenter.com. And I have an email, which is info@TampaHypnosisCenter.com. If you have any questions or would, then I'll reply to that, or set up an appointment to just answer some of your questions. I'm a low pressure guy. I don't want to, talk to 100 people about nothing, but the idea, I enjoy just having conversations. Feel free to give a call. I have a phone number on my website also. I am creating a new program that is going to be really nice because I'm expensive.
Yeah.
But it's a great investment because it's not just about whatever they come to me for. It's about expanding their entire existence of who they are. But I'm creating a group program. The technology is driving me crazy because I just want to make it a membership. And I'll tell you, it's like crazy just trying to put something like that together. See, back the idea, that's not my skill set, but somebody else's, it is their skill set. But there's a lot of people out there pretending to be that don't have that skill set right now. So the idea, it's going to be just a monthly membership, and there's going to be a lot of value in that for the people that can't, because you learn faster in a group. There's a dynamic in a group that's pretty amazing. And so, hopefully that'll be up in the next 8 weeks.
Nice. No, and that's a true statement, Ron. A lot of us, what's that old phrase about you get raised by a village, or what's that old phrase? Takes a village to raise somebody, something like that. But yeah, when you're in a positive community, you learn a lot. You learn a lot more than, trying to learn by yourself, or maybe even in school. So it's important, guys, surround yourself with the right people, the right support system. Doesn't matter if it's just 2 or 3 people, but surround yourself with the right people and feed off each other and, push each other to the next level. So Ron, we are wrapping up, and I appreciate you. We will talk soon, and everybody else, I will continue to remind you that everything that you know today, everything that you've learned, dare to question it. Dare to question it. If you've been told things from other people and you haven't questioned it, you're doing yourself a disfavor. Fact check it. You never know what you'll find when you do your own research. And more importantly, always dare to ask the question, what is beyond the frequency?